ladies and gentlemen, Michael Lombardi.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? How are we doing? We are going to witness history tonight. I mean, Al may not wear a tie. It's going to be too cold. But the history is going to be, this will be the first game, Pat, that Jameis Winston has played in temperatures below 40 degrees in his NFL career.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
No.
How about that?
I did not know that. Obviously, he's down in Tampa. He's down in New Orleans, comes up to Cleveland this year. You would think one of those teams would have had a game, though, against some North opponent late in the season. They have not. How would Jameis handle it, I wonder?
Yeah, because even going back to college, you wonder how many he played with at Florida State.
None.
Probably none.
Yeah.
The reason we measure hands at the combine on quarterbacks is because of nights like tonight. You know, when you have small hands, it maybe becomes difficult to handle a slippery football. And Jameis had really small hands coming out of college. So this will be a challenge for him against a very good Pittsburgh front. And his ability to handle a wet football in the conditions that we're going to face tonight. It'll be great football. It'll be fun to watch.
Well, as Jim Harbaugh said, tonight's going to be a cold night, okay?
Yep.
Shout out to the Black Eyed Peas. Love the Black Eyed Peas. But you're talking about cold and rainy. Is that the story of tonight? Jameis Winston potentially having to handle all that? Or this is AFC North football. Whoever's more physical than the other team is going to whip?
Yeah. No, I think the story of tonight is why the Steelers and certainly Diggs can talk about this is they don't win on Thursday night. Mike Tomlin has struggled on the road on Thursday nights. It's been really bad. He's 0-7 straight up, and against the spread, he hasn't been very good on Thursday night away from Pittsburgh. That's been a problem. So, and one thing we do know about the AFC North, or the old Central, if you will, however you want to call it, you know, the underdog has always had a place at the table. They're at 61% covering the number in these type of games. So even though it doesn't look weird, even though it doesn't look like it should be a close game, the Browns have only scored over 18 points one time all season, but they did it against the Ravens, believe it or not. So even though it doesn't look like it should be a good game, it's probably going to be a really good defensive, ugly struggle and come down to the final 5 minutes.
Every time we get a chance to talk about one of these AFC North games, I can't help but think about how lucky I was to grow up in one of these AFC North towns. So whenever I see 4.5 point spread last week for the Ravens against Pittsburgh Steelers, it's like, the 4.5 we think? This is what we think this is going to be like? And then tonight, 3.5. I know it's not 4.5, but it's certainly more than a field goal. That feels big to me for an AFC North game. That just kind of feels big to me, especially with the conditions being the way they are.
Yeah, it feels big to me, too, because, look, both these teams, they know each other. There's the rivalry, right? I mean, I've been a part of it. Last year, believe this or not, it was the first time the Steelers didn't finish ahead of the Browns in the standing in the AFC North, or if you want to go back to the AFC Central, since 1989 when Kevin Mack scored against the Houston Oilers to win that game on the last day. And that was the last time the Browns finished ahead of them until last year. So this has been an intense rivalry, and it's going to continue to be that way. And I think the Steelers have their work cut out for them tonight. Even though the Browns, lost badly last week, they still gained 400 and some yards, 443 yards against the Saints. Jameis threw for the most yards of any time any quarterback in Cleveland Brown this season. So it'll be fascinating. If he protects the football, that's what's going to really come out of this. What happens? Does he not protect it, or does he?
Is this game going to be a part of your picks at the end of this conversation, or no?
No, because I don't trust Jameis with his small hands in cold weather. I mean,
how can he have small hands? He's 6.
They're 9
I'm
and
sorry.
3/8.
I worry about it because
got those carny hands.
I can't trust a guy with small
I need some
claws.
help.
They smell like cabbage, smell like all that stuff, right?
That's ridiculous. All right, so you're just staying away from this one. That's smart.
Absolutely, yeah.
Couple more stats here. You talk about the standings and everything, and this doesn't just about tonight's game, but just Pittsburgh Steelers as a whole. This is from Hembo. Pittsburgh's preseason over-under was 8 wins. Mm-hmm. Tomlin will hit the over with its next win for the 5th consecutive season. Okay, and it will be the 12th time in 18 seasons if he does it. Now, there's a chance.
Yeah.
If he does it.
Stingy team.
It'll be the 12th. Well, not just tonight. The rest of the season.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
It'll be the 12th time in 18 seasons that Tomlin's team has exceeded its preseason win total. So, projected expectations, Tomlin has obviously outperformed them. This year, though, feels like one of the teams that can maybe get them out of, 13 to 21 draft picks, right? Isn't that kind of what the expectation is this year?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've been sitting in that 13, 18, 20 range for since really the last 5 years. And what does that mean? That's the purgatory that we sit in.
That means you're above 500,
correct,
but you're losing a lot of games too.
Yep.
No chance to win a Super Bowl, but could win every game.
Correct.
And it's like it's kind of a purgatory that the Steelers have been. Russell Wilson has seemingly taken the Yinzers out of this. I got a text this morning from Bones.
Sure.
It was Jack Black kicking Will Ferrell's dog off the bridge.
Yeah.
And he says, this is what's happening to the Browns tonight, the dog pound. And then obviously a full thing about how he feels. But Yinzers feel like this is a team that can actually go, which hasn't happened in a long time, I think, for actual Steelers fans deep down.
Yeah, I mean, look, Wilson's played really well. He averages 7.8 yards per attempt. Think about this now, Pat. He's only started 4 games. He's thrown for 942 yards in those 4 games, whereas the field started 6 games and he threw for 1,100 yards. So they're throwing the ball down the field with more consistency, right? He had the bad interception last week against Baltimore, but for the most part, they've also improved their running game. Over the last 5 games that they've played, they've averaged 152 yards rushing, and they've only given up 17.2 points per game in those 5 games. They played really good defense. Look, what Mike does is Mike is a great leader of men, and he's a great football coach, and he proves the point that head NFL coaches are about leadership and about devising a game plan to allow you to win the game. And it may not look pretty. It may not look fine. It may not be explosive. But at the end of the day, we'll kick 6 field goals and we'll win the game. You know, that we'll kick 6 field goals against the Falcons and win the game. No matter what we have to do to win, we're going to win the game. And I think that goes to Tomlin's ability to instill mental toughness and physical toughness in his team. It's really remarkable to watch, and it's fun. Look, we're seeing it this year. We have 9 teams that have only won 3 games in the league. The Saints have won 4, but they beat 3 of those wins have come against teams in the bottom. I think this statement that you're seeing from Sean Payton, you're seeing from Jim Harbaugh, you're seeing from Mike Tomlin about head coaches running their teams, I think it's a powerful statement.
Yeah, having a strategy to win the game as opposed to just being, this is what we're going to do and it's either going to work or it's not going to work is a beautiful thing. And then in-game management is a big decision as well. And then obviously having a kicker like Boswell make the kicks. Yeah. That's a huge deal, especially tonight with the way this weather's going to be. Hop's coming off a bad game. Hopkins missed a couple last week, including missing a 32-yarder penalty, get another opportunity at it, misses a 27-yarder.
Man.
Now, granted, I'm a guy who has missed short field goals, but they didn't let me kick in the NFL.
Sure.
So, normally, whenever you're missing, shorter field goals, there's something going on, either mentally or maybe with your stroke. Hopefully, Hop, who I have I'm a big fan of, gets it back. But tonight could be a big field goal game. Weather's about to be absolute crap. Boz has proven that this year he is stroking,
Oh, yeah.
He's stroking in the east. He's stroking in the west. Boz.
Stroke to the woman that I love best. He's
stroking. He is. He's been stroking all year, so tonight could come down to that. Okay, let's pivot off of this Thursday night football game. Let's go to some other teams. Conman's got a question for you.
Yeah, Lombo, how do you feel about the teams on the bubble? Obviously, the Colts are one of them. The Bengals, even though they just lost to the Chargers, are still in it. And then, of course, the Dolphins at 4-6 going up against New England this weekend on the AFC side. Do you see any of them catching the Broncos, and do you see any of the teams in the NFC too as well, because that race is much closer?
I think Miami, when Miami's schedule came out, they ended the season in Cleveland and at the Jets. And I thought, boy, that's not good for Tua. Cold weather games. They're probably going to need them to get into the playoffs. But now, even though they still will be cold weather, both those teams have mailed it in. That won't be really factoring games when it comes down to it. I think Miami still has a chance to do it. But this Denver team, let's make no mistake about it, they're hard to play. They destroyed Atlanta. They were physical. They took control. Bo Nix is getting better. Sean's doing a really good job of working 3 elements of his team, offense, defense. And look, they had Kansas City beat. I can promise you, Patrick Mahomes was sore after that Kansas City game. After that Denver game. He was sore. So I think they are. Look, Cincinnati is a track team. They're a 7-on-7 team. right? I feel bad for Lou Anarumo because they have no physicality to their team. They're a third down nickel team. They really are. They're a 2-minute team, and Joe Burrow's having an MVP season, and they've won 3 games. I mean, you're going to have to play complementary football to win games. They just don't. They turn the ball back over to the Chargers. They take 25 seconds off the clock, and then they lose on a touchdown at the last second. They don't run the ball when they have a chance, or they don't throw it when they have a chance to beat Baltimore. It just continues to mount. They're 1-7 in one-score games. So I just don't see them. And for the Colts, they're just too inconsistency. I loved Richardson last week. They ran an offense that fits him. I think, can he do it another week? That's what I'm excited to watch.
I think the thing about Anthony Richardson is he had 2 weeks where us included pointed out very obvious things about being a starting quarterback in the NFL. And all you heard everybody around him say is like, yes, all these things potentially real, but also 22 years old. This guy is still younger than a lot of the quarterbacks that are still in college and all of the quarterbacks that are in the NFL. He still can change and develop habits. And they said over 2 weeks, he was more invested, more prepared, seemingly better than ever. Yep. And whenever he was running through people, he was bouncing right back up. Mm-hmm. There wasn't even a thought of like, he understands that everything he does is being watched, not only by the public eye and the media, but by his teammates and by people in the building and people that maybe have an investment stake in the Indianapolis Colts. It's like that 2-week period there where he got benched for Joe Flacco, and even though Joe Flacco didn't play how we thought Joe Flacco was going to play, I think it was a massive moment for the development of Anthony Richardson. And behind closed doors, we're being told like, night and day here. Yes. Now we got like a different operating procedure, and I think if you're Shane Steichen, you should be pumped. If you're a Colts fan, you should be pumped. And if you're Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, I think we should be maybe some scaredy cats up there.
Yeah, look out.
I think the Lions should have a little deeper purr maybe going on this week because you got a mad Colts team that can still get in. Everything is still very much in front of us. Now the Lions, we know they're Super Bowl.
They're juggernaut.
Oh, yeah. It is Super Bowl or bust almost conversation every year for the next 10 years for you guys.
Amen.
But with the Colts, you're talking about like a desperate team. They cannot lose another one. And it's at our house, and I'm not saying that means anything with this Lions team. They don't play with their food either. They
beat the shit out of people.
They do what they got to do. But I think Anthony Richardson, if he's going to continue to be invested in the team, seeing that he's invested, so they all know that they have a chance to really win these games, it's going to be a good battle. It's going to be a good battle.
And historically, Lions haven't been great against running quarterbacks. So if AR is making good decisions and running the ball without Anzalone, that might be a little bit of an issue. So we'll see what happens.
You scaredy cat?
No. To be clear, not afraid of any team in the NFL right now.
Not afraid of any team? Okay.